Hi there. I'm Stephanie with Cozy Daisy Stitchery, and I wanted to share with you about the travel collection today. So, if you're new here, if you don't know who I am, or you haven't come across my content where I talk about my values, both as a person and as the owner of Cozy Daisy Stitchery, I'll give you just a little bit here. Although I do encourage you to check out that content if you're curious. Um, I am really, really, really passionate about families and children, families and children, not families with children, all families, families and children, education, and sustainability and mindful consumerism. And the travel collection is related to the second one, to education. So I have a background in education. I've been tutoring since I was 15 years old. No, I don't want to do the math on the spot yet. So I've been tutoring a long time, but I'm actually really bad at mental math. So, been tutoring a really long time. I, you know, did a lot of consulting with families for children with special needs. I worked with children with special needs through my degree in behavior analysis. And so education is really, really important to me and giving children the skills that they need to succeed, right? And not all of those aren't all academic skills. Let's be clear. And so that's kind of where this all started. Because I started off as a tutor, the biggest need is usually in math, pretty much always in math. Also, sometimes reading and writing, but pretty much always in math. Um, and so I started with that as a teenager, and then from there, and after years and years of tutoring in the maths, um, I kind of saw that what students were really, really lacking and really, really needing wasn't so much like the nitty-gritty of like homework and like math. It was really a broader sense of study skills and executive functioning skills. And so from tutoring in math, I kind of transitioned into study skills help and executive functioning skills. Um, and then and then I married my husband and he switched jobs, and his new job has us moving around a lot. Right now, we are actually not even in the US. We are in West Africa. Um, and so I have been really, really limited in terms of how much work I can do one-on-one with students because of the time zone. um, since most of my audience was in America. And so I kind of hit a spot, time zones are difficult and I have two little ones. And so I kind of paused the tutoring and study skills help for a little bit. Um, and I had the owner of a phone app reach out, and he wanted to talk about the kind of things that I was doing and what I was doing with the content I had already made. Um, because I had hours upon hours upon hours of video trainings for parents, video trainings for children, for students, um, digital worksheets and digital resources, and just all sorts of stuff that I had been giving and, you know, yeah, giving to my students. Or if they had, paid to become part of a program, then like that was part of the program, part of what they paid for. And so talking with this guy, he kind of says something like, well, if the stuff that you made is just kind of sitting on a shelf somewhere, you know, and he didn't come right out and ask, but he basically kind of implied like, well, if it's just sitting on a shelf somewhere, can you just give it to us for our app? Um, and I was kind of taken aback by this request, even though he didn't like officially like explicitly ask. But he was basically asking, like, can you just give us your stuff? Um, and and his app is not a free app, it's a paid app. and you have the paper child that you have, um, and it's it's not expensive. It's not an expensive app, but I was like, well, I don't like that. I don't like that. Um, First off, I made it. It's my hard work. And second off, why am I gonna give it to you to then sell to these families? You're gonna like charge per child, and it's kind of expensive. Like, who are you? You know? And so that's kind of what brings me um to the travel collection. So you're probably wondering, what in the world does that have to do with crochet? I promise there's like a method to this. There's a method to my madness. Um, that light behind me is like really annoying, so I'm just gonna like tilt down a little bit. Um, but if I turn it off, then the room gets really dark and the video doesn't look good either. So anyway, um, so that happened a few months ago, and fast forward, now we're living in West Africa. We're in Niger, and um and I'm crocheting, and I want to really start, you know, Cozy Daisy Stitchery. I really, really want to make this work. I really want this to be um my latest and greatest um crafting venture. So I've always been around and I've always made things. So with tutoring, it was really like digital. Um, but at the end of the day, since I was a little girl, I've always just loved making things with my hands. So I've knit, I've baked, I did woodworking, I did calligraphy. I've done a lot of hands-on things, but I had all of this digital educational, like these digital educational materials that I wasn't using. And so it's kind of like the way he like asked for my stuff was kind of like, I was a little offended by it, but I think I was offended because it struck an because it had a it rang true, you know. My stuff was just sitting on a shelf. And so once I wanted to start, working with Cozy Daisy Stitchery, and I really, thought to myself, and I said, I don't want to just be another person that's crocheting and selling like, the same stuffed animals that everybody else is selling. Um, what what makes my stuff different? What makes my stuff special? Why buy from me versus someone else? Um, And at the end of the day, it's because the work that I do is really, really driven by my values. Who I am as Stephanie Johnson is intricately tied with what I do, you know. Um, and so obviously that like it's more obvious when it comes to sustainability or families and children because of the stuff I'm making, you buy a baby blanket when you're having a baby. Um, But education is no different. And so I said, well, families and children and sustainability, like, yeah, those are obvious, but education is incredibly important to me. So how can I bring that along? How can I make that part of Cozy Daisy Stitchery? And what I came up with was, first off, I took all that material that was just sitting on a bookshelf, the digital metaphorical bookshelf, um, and I've decided to just put it out there. So I am putting it on Patreon. I'm charging very, very little per family, whether you have one child or, 10 children, stepchildren included, foster kids included. Um, so actually it would be great for foster families because you always have like all of these children that you're helping. Um, but I'm putting it all out there. This is not a plug for that. I'm not trying to sell you on that. I'm just trying to share like where I'm coming from, right? So this guy kind of like lit a fire under me. I was like, wait, if I'm gonna give it to you to sell, um, why don't I put it out there for like on my own, just put it out there myself. And so that's what I'm doing. Every single piece of like educational resource that I've ever made, is getting put on there. Video trainings for parents, for students, podcast episodes, digital resources, printable worksheets, everything is getting put on there, and you all have access to it. There's no like different tiers. I guess there's one tier for like only parent stuff, and then one tier for only kid stuff, in case you don't want your kid to, you see like the parent things. And like that's it. There's no like pay more for this other thing. No, because I am very, very clear on my values around education. Education should be fun. It should be easy. It should be lifelong, and it should be accessible to everyone. All right. So accessing education. And that's where CDS comes in, because I put all of, these years and years and years of materials and resources and video trainings and, just everything. I put all of it on the internet. I'm still uploading things. Um, and then when we moved to Niger, and I realized, well, Stephanie, yeah, like you ding dong, like it's still a huge barrier of entry. If in order to access your resources, you have to have internet, and you have to have a computer or a phone that has internet access to access those things. And so I realized, like, yeah, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but like, yeah, I think I did a good thing to put it all out there, but there's still so much work to be done, in helping those that are most in need and at risk of our population, which is children, right? And so that's long story. How long have I been talking now? I don't know. It doesn't tell me. I've been going for a few minutes, but that's like the long and short of what brought me to the travel collection, because I thought, you know what? Because of the way that my my husband, I love him dearly. He is really driven to give back. And he, in this job, he doesn't request locations that are, I guess I don't know how to put this, like touristy locations. I think, I don't think we'll ever end up bidding for a place like London or, Spain or Norway or Japan, um, or Australia, like all these amazing places. He is really driven to do work where help is needed. Um, and I love that about him. And because of that, we're also going to be in places where my help is needed. And the expertise that I can bring to the table with my background in education. So I said, great, I'm putting all this stuff online for people with internet access. But we're going to be living a lot of the times in places with not reliable internet access, or not reliable access to technology. And um, so what I decided to do was to create the travel collection. And so every time we move somewhere new, even retroactively, I'm like working from this point in time where we're in Niger, and I've already I've already come up with uh my article for Niger. And from now moving forward, but also retroactively, we got married almost 5 years ago in Jamaica, and he was assigned there too. And so every place that we go to as a family where we're assigned, I'm going to either curate from the amazing crochet designers that exist in the world, either curating a beautiful pattern that I just speaks to me, or I'm designing one myself. So for every place, I'm losing the thread. I'm trying to explain it the best I can. Every time we're assigned to a new place, I'm going to kind of take my experience in that place and see what about it inspires me. And so I'm either going to design a pattern related to that thing that inspires me, or I'm going to curate and find a pattern designed by someone else that inspires me and that is related to my time here or my time in that place. And so, for example, right now we're in Niger. I've already written a blog post about our time in Niger, and I have already sourced a pattern that I absolutely love, and I'll share it with you. Um, and and so all the proceeds that come from the items that I make from those patterns, or if it's a pattern I design, also selling the pattern. So I sell like either the pattern if I design the pattern, or physical items if it's somebody else's pattern. I wouldn't resell their pattern, you know. All the proceeds from that would go towards an education organization in a country, in the last country that we lived in. Okay. And the reason why it's not the current country that we're living in is because I want to really do my homework and take the time and meet organizations, kind of vet them, see how they use funding, who has access to these resources. I want to make sure I do a good job, you know, vetting and spending these donated dollars mindfully. And so if I figured if it's like the last post we've been at, then it's like the entire time we were at that post, I can build relationships with organizations like on the ground. And so, for example, I just gotta tell you here, for Niger, like I said, I've already written that blog post, and the design that I found that I absolutely loved is a little goat snuggler. Some people call them lovies. They're for babies, and so it has a little plushy head, but the body is almost it's like a blanket. So it's like a stuffy slash blanket had a baby. And it's the cutest little plushy snuggler ever. And so that's the first one, just because since we're here, I'm in the moment, I'm in the environment. That's the one I was most inspired to start by. That's where I'm at right now. And so I'll link the blog post down below, and I'll just share it with you. It is the cutest little goat snuggler. I mean, cutest little goat in general, but he happens to be a snuggler. And so all the proceeds from that little goat and from everything else that I add to this collection, as we move, the collection will grow. All the proceeds that come from sales of this collection will get donated to, like I said, organizations in country of where we lived most recently. So right now we're in Niger. In the past, we've also been in, like I mentioned, Jamaica, and we were also in Wisconsin. That post is the next one coming up. So if you're curious about that, you'll get to read about Wisconsin. And our experience there, obviously not like everything there is about Wisconsin. But anyway, I've I've talked a lot. This is what I do. I crochet. I talk a lot, especially if I'm nervous. But I really hope that kind of what inspires me and what I bring to the table resonates with you. If it does, please give me a follow. Please subscribe. Follow, like read the blog, sign up to the newsletter. You know, all the things. And the more support I get on those like not paid things, then the more traction and more traffic I can get, and then find someone that wants to buy a goat snuggler. Again, this video is not meant to be selling access to my Patreon, and it's not selling the goat snuggler. I really just wanted to come on here and share my travel collection with you. Please let me know down below any questions, comments, concerns, curiosities. Um, I would love to chat with you. And I would love to share more about myself, about Cozy Daisy Stitchery, about my time tutoring. I would love to share about my experience in Niger so far. It's an amazing, amazing experience so far. And I would love to share more about it. So please hit me up down below with any questions, comments, concerns, or just to say hi. I look forward to hearing from you. See you next time.